Dr. Hodge in 1965 wrote another book. This time, though, in that book, all he talked about were the effects of fluoride on bone and teeth. He did not talk about anything about these CNS effects. But then Cliff showed me some documents from 1944. And in this memo, I just want to point out a couple of statements. This memo was marked top secret, and no one knew this, and it's dated April of 1944. And I can't hardly read it from here, but it says, it's to Stafford Warren, who was part of the head of the project. And they talk about here that there is clinical evidence to suggest that C616, that's uranium hexafluoride, may have a rather marked central nervous system effect with mental confusion, drowsiness, and lassitude as the conspicuous features. It seems most likely that the fluoride component, rather than the uranium, is the causative factor. They knew in 1944 that it was causing a problem. They go on to say here that it's causing a problem and we are worried about it and we want to do animal experimentation because these, we're afraid that our workers are going to become confused and they're not going to be able to handle working with this stuff. They're going to be a danger to themselves and they're going to be a danger to others. The memo goes on. They set up a budget. They gave money to these people to do the studies in rats that I just did in 1996. They had the budget. It was approved. The Colonel and the Manhattan Project said, yes, go ahead and do it. This office approves that this experimental program can go forward. Not 6 months later, another memo comes in and it says, if you started those studies on the mental condition in rats, stop them. And if you haven't started them, don't start them at all. So they knew there was a problem, they stopped it back 50 years ago, and they never did the study, and the studies were never reintroduced into the documents. And you don't see that in the literature today, and that's why you don't see a lot of the dentist who knows the problems with the CNS. Now, going on, since then I've gone to other literature around the world, and I can tell you in a nutshell. You've mentioned the IQ problems. You've mentioned, I can tell you that there's a review that's recently written, as recent as 1994, that says the syndrome that you have if you're exposed looks a lot like the chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, I can go back to the 1950s where these people, they talk about their memory loss, they talk about the problems with coordinating their thoughts. These are documented and they do exist, but you can't find them in the literature in the United States. I had to go outside. I had to wait until someone knocked on my door and showed me declassified documents that these problems were known about some time ago. Then I have to go on. I see I'm a little too slow, but one of the last documents I saw that just blew me away, and I said, if I do nothing else, I've got to get out so that the people do have the right to know this. They went out, they had one big accident or a lot of release of the fluoride. The chief pharmacologist, Harold Hodge, that I worked with, went out and he writes a memo about his visit to the site. And he says there's no question it's hydrogen fluoride. There's no question that the people are sick. There's no question that the fruit is poisoned. There's no question that the levels were so high that there had to be an agricultural embargo on the fruit, which was stopped. There was no question that people were being poisoned. And then he turns around and says, should we try and alleviate the fear of the public about fluoride by telling them it's good for their teeth? So the next time someone comes up and says to you that fluoride is good for your teeth, if I were you, I would just say no.
Thank you. Dr. Mullenix. Proponents of fluoridation were invited to speak at this Clark University forum so that Worcester citizens could make an informed choice of whether to fluoridate their community. Following a 40-year-old policy of not appearing with opponents of fluoridation where detailed questions of safety and effectiveness are to be addressed, promoters of fluoridation refused to attend, electing instead to rely on statements of denial that any question of harmfulness exists and impugning the character of anyone who presents facts to the contrary. Unfortunately, the general population is highly susceptible to million-dollar sound bites touting the unsubstantiated merits. Ask your public access station to repeat this tape so that others can be informed. An extended version of this tape is also available for VCR viewing, which includes a question and answer segment from this forum. Please assist Citizens for Safe Drinking Water and other organizations around the nation to stop this deadly practice of poisoning our water supply. In California, another 25 million people will suffer from fluoridation unless we act now.